The night she decided she was done remembering was the night everything changed. Rain hammered the city like it had a personal grudge, blurring streetlights into long streaks of gold and white. She sat alone at the bar, fingers wrapped around a glass she'd already refilled too many times, staring at her reflection in the mirror behind the bottles. 32 years old, married for 10, and somehow she had never felt so invisible. Her wedding ring lay heavy in her pocket, burning like a lie she could no longer wear. She drank not to celebrate, not to forget a bad day, but to silence a life that had stopped listening to her. Her marriage hadn't broken all at once. It cracked slowly, quietly, in the way old houses do, one unnoticed sound at a time. Her husband had once been gentle, ambitious, the kind of man who held her hand in public and spoke about their future with certainty. Then work came first, then his phone, then the long silences at dinner, the excuses, the dismissive sighs when she tried to talk about how lonely she felt. The night she found the messages wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no tears from him. Just a shrug and the words, "It didn't mean anything." That was when she realized she had been the only one trying to save something already dead. By the time the bartender cut her off, the room felt like it was tilting. She barely remembered calling a ride, barely remembered the cold air hitting her face as she stepped outside. What she did remember was a voice, calm, steady, asking if she was okay. She remembered looking up and seeing a man holding an umbrella, rain soaking his expensive coat anyway. His eyes weren't curious or judging. They were concerned, the kind of concern she hadn't seen directed at her in years. She laughed at the irony of it, then the world blurred into darkness. She woke to silence so complete it startled her. No traffic, no neighbors arguing through thin walls, no alarm clock buzzing her awake for a life she didn't want. The bed beneath her was massive, the sheets soft in a way she had only ever seen in magazines. For a moment, panic rose in her chest. She sat up too fast, her head pounding, and that was when she noticed the room. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a city skyline bathed in morning light. Art lined the walls, tasteful and understated. This was not her apartment. This was not any place she had ever been. Her heart raced as she pulled the blanket closer, her eyes scanning for clues. Then the door opened. The man from the rain stepped inside, now dressed casually, holding a glass of water and a small bottle of painkillers. He stopped when he saw she was awake and offered a gentle smile, the kind meant to reassure rather than impress. He explained calmly, he'd found her barely conscious, refused to leave her alone, brought her back so she could sleep it off safely. Nothing had happened. He emphasized it like it mattered, like her dignity mattered. Relief washed over her, followed closely by embarrassment. She apologized too many times, her words tumbling over each other. He listened without interrupting, then simply said, "You don't owe me anything. Everyone needs help sometimes." He told her his name, offered her breakfast, and gave her space when she asked for it. It was such a small kindness, but it cracked something open inside her. When she finally gathered the courage to ask where she was, he answered without arrogance. He owned the building. He ran several companies. He was, by most definitions, a millionaire. Yet he said it like it was a detail, not a trophy. She expected to leave immediately, to return to the wreckage of her life, but he offered her a ride instead. During the drive, conversation came easily in a way that surprised her. She found herself talking about things she hadn't said out loud in years, her dreams, her disappointments, the fear that she had wasted her best years loving someone who never really saw her. He didn't try to fix her. He didn't interrupt with advice. He just listened. When they reached her apartment building, he gave her his card and said, "If you ever need a friend, call." Days passed, then weeks. She filed for divorce, the process painful but strangely freeing. She moved through her days like someone relearning how to walk, unsure but determined. One afternoon, after a particularly hard meeting with her lawyer, she found herself staring at that card. She told herself she was being foolish, that men like him didn't exist in her real world. Still, she called. He answered like he had been expecting it. They started meeting for coffee, then dinner. Their connection grew slowly, built on conversations rather than grand gestures. She learned that his wealth had come at a cost, long years of pressure, trust betrayed by people who saw his success before they saw him. He learned that her strength had been buried under years of being told she was too emotional, too demanding, too much. With him, she was just enough. With her, he didn't have to be invincible. Challenges came, as they always do. Gossip surfaced when people saw them together, assumptions made about her intentions. She overheard whispers that she was only there for his money, that she had traded one marriage for another opportunity. The old version of her might have shrunk under those words. This time, she didn't. She confronted him, voice shaking, asking if he believed them. He didn't hesitate. He told her he believed in her, not because she needed saving, but because she had never asked him for anything but honesty. Her divorce was finalized on a quiet Tuesday. She expected to feel broken. Instead, she felt light. That night, she stood on her own balcony, city lights stretching out before her, and realized she wasn't afraid of the future anymore. She had started taking classes again, chasing a career she'd put on hold. She laughed more. She slept better. She had learned that love wasn't supposed to make you smaller. Months later, she returned to that bar, not to drink, but to remember. She ordered a soda, sat in the same seat, and looked at her reflection again. The woman staring back wasn't trying to disappear. She was present, whole. Her phone buzzed with a message from him, asking if she wanted to join him for dinner. She smiled, not because a millionaire wanted her, but because she had chosen a life where she no longer needed to forget who she was. She had thought that waking up in a stranger's bed changed her fate. In truth, it was waking up to herself that did. Her story didn't end with wealth or romance. It began with self-worth. And that, she realized, was the richest future she could ever have.